29 years in the military and then 16 years as a diplomat representing you, the people of America all over the world, I finally resigned over on a point of principle. For the invasion and occupation of a country that has done nothing to us, to me, was a crime. It is a war crime. It is a war of aggression. By international law, we know it is a war crime. A fellow diplomat from the British Foreign Service actually resigned about the same time I did. She was the deputy legal counsel for all of the British Foreign Service. Her name is Elizabeth Willemshurst. And in her letter of resignation, she says specifically, the invasion and occupation of this country of Iraq will be a war crime. Her letter of resignation was not made available for over 2 years. The British government kept it secret. As a military, there's one very good reason for impeachment. Talk about high crime, putting our government, putting our nation at harm's way, at risk of our national defense by sending our military into a war of choice, not a war of necessity for our national defense. So if only that, the Bush administration, George Bush and Vice President Cheney must be impeached for that. And the second thing, that if you can't get them on the first one, we'll get them on the second one. Because torture, the illegal torture, violations of domestic and international law, where you purposely, intentionally hurt other people. And that's exactly what we've been doing. That's what we've done in Afghanistan, in Bagram Air Base, and then in Guantanamo, and then in Abu Ghraib. In those prisons that the Bush administration sent people that they had kidnapped from other countries. They call it extraordinary rendition. Its term, the name of it is kidnapping. Kidnapping, because you can ask for people from other countries. It's called extradition. But no, the Bush administration doesn't do that. They go kidnap people and then take them by extraordinary rendition and torture taxi flights, and they put them into countries where they know these people are going to be tortured. The Bush administration gets the U.S. Congress to go along with it. In October of last year, the Military Commissions Act was passed, which means no habeas corpus now for these 770 people that have gone through Guantanamo. Only about 380 left now. Over 320 have already gone back home. Not but one, I believe, has ever been charged in their home country. 380 people right now, 95% of whom were purchased by the United States. We didn't capture them on a field of battle. We purchased them. We paid $25 grand for somebody that was supposedly an Al-Qaeda agent. We paid $5,000 if it was a Taliban. Our U.S. forces did not capture the people that were in Guantanamo. Of the 380 that are left, the Bush administration says only 50 to 70 will ever be charged with anything. So why are we keeping the other 300? Why are we keeping them? Only one has ever been charged and prosecuted. Only one. Remember, he's David Hicks. He's now in Australia. After spending 5.5 years in jail, what was his crime? Aiding and abetting the enemy. He was initially charged with murder, attempted murder of a U.S. service person. The presiding council of the military commissions threw that charge out. He was convicted of 2 charges, total of 9 months, and that's after he'd already spent 5.5 years in jail. One of the conditions of his getting to leave Guantanamo to serve his time in Australia was that he cannot talk publicly about what happened to him while the United States has him. It's a secret, but it's not. We know what happened. It was torture. It was the illegal treatment, torture of people. Our Congress has codified that. Now we call it alternative interrogation techniques. But by any other term, if it happens to you, you'd say torture, torture. So we, the United States, are still doing torture. And this must stop, and it's one of the reasons that we must impeach George Bush and must impeach Vice President Cheney. Now that's my 5 minutes on my stuff. Now I get an extra 3 minutes to try to, in some small way, represent what a tremendous, tremendous person Malik Rahim would have said about what happened to New Orleans. I know Malik very, very well because after the hurricane hit in New Orleans in late August of 2005, within a week I was in New Orleans. I was there with a Veterans for Peace delegation. We brought 10,000 pounds of supplies that left Camp Casey, Texas, that ended right as the hurricane hit. We loaded every single thing that was left from Camp Casey and took it to New Orleans. And who did we take it to? We took it to Malik Rahim, who was there in Algiers, the area right across the river from New Orleans. He was there saying to the federal government, I'm not leaving, and the people in my neighborhood are not going to leave, because we know what's going to happen to us. We'll never get back into the city. And that's what's happened to most of the people that did leave New Orleans. They can't come home. It is a crime. It is a high crime and a misdemeanor that the federal government, led by George Bush and Vice President Cheney, have not rebuilt New Orleans, have been so incompetent, have been so purposely hateful to a section of our countrymen and women that they must be impeached. To leave people to drown, to leave people in prisons, to prisons that prisoners had to bust out of jail. In superhuman acts to knock out bars out of the jail so they would not drown because they had been left behind. To not have the National Guard there to help them. To not get the buses in from all over the country that were staged ready to go, but FEMA, our old buddy Brownie, didn't give the order. And I would say there was probably a reason he didn't give the order. It's because he was being told from higher up, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. It's only New Orleans. It's only the most densely populated of African Americans that we have in our country. Don't worry about them. That's what George Bush thinks, in my opinion. George Bush needs to be impeached because he didn't get FEMA going. He didn't get trailers in for people after the hurricane. They're still rotting in Arkansas right now. The treatment of the people of the Gulf Coast and New Orleans has been so horrific that George Bush, Vice President Dick Cheney, must be impeached. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And once again, we should tell those people circulating with questions. You can cards, we'll do question and answer afterwards. We're still hoping for John Conyers to be here later, and I know that some of the questions will be for him. So we'll be here as well. If you have questions or want to have someone come and pick up a card, hold up your hand, and someone will get to you.
Woman in pink.
Woman in pink is the card taker, not the card giver. Okay. Next speaker is Ray McGovern. He's an aide to the Bronx former Army intelligence officer.